Hello Soul Seekers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wiam and welcome to part 2 of Proof of Advanced Ancient Technology. In part 1, we examined 4 proofs of advanced ancient technology, from machining to core drills, advanced manufacturing, and polished surfaces. In this video, we will examine 6 more categories that are even more astonishing than what we examined last time. If you are new to my channel, make sure to subscribe as I make videos every 2 weeks. Without further ado, let's get this video started. Let's start by examining the engineered precision. Science has been evolving the accuracy of metrology since the emergence of lasers. This tool has been crucial to examine the dimensions and tolerances over the entire surface of artifacts. These tools have been used to study some of the artifacts at the Cairo Museum, and the results showcase a highly precise construction for some of these bowls. The tight tolerances suggest an industrial manufacturing process being used and not handmade precision. As Sir Flinders Petrie said in his journal, that the finest examples of turning in Hearthstone are in the British Museum. A small, highly polished, narrow-necked vase in diorite with veins of hornblende has its neck only 0.05 inch thick. A large vase of syenite is turned inside and out, remarkably thin, considering the size of the component crystals. But the greatest triumph is a bowl of diorite, translucent and full of minute flaws, which must render it very brittle. Yet this bowl, 6 inches in diameter, is only 1/40th inch thick over its greatest part. Just around the edge, it is thicker in order to strengthen it. But a small chip broken out of the body of it shows its extraordinary thinness. All this precision is attributed with the use of these basic copper tools. These tools are more likely to have produced these mud artifacts, which are ironically put side by side and are said to be from the same era. The next artifact to examine is the schist disc, which is a very complex artifact that looks curved but is actually made of one piece of schist stone. Primitive tools cannot produce the curved surface and bent edges with this precision. This is shown in other similar looking artifacts. This next example shows perfectly circular grooves in this very hard granite stone. I superimposed those circles using Photoshop to show how astonishingly perfect these circles are. These artifacts are labeled as being from the pre-dynastic time period, the so-called archaic period, which is 6,000 plus years old. We see the underside of this one, almost perfect execution. We will move on to the artifacts in Bolivia's Pumapunku. It is clearly visible how complex these curved surfaces are to construct without having advanced engineering precision tools. We can see the H-block cutouts are slightly slanted inwardly, as opposed to being rectangular. Furthermore, we see keystone cuts. These were used to lock the stones together. The smelting of these metals found in the keystone cuts was not a mundane task either. Now let's move to examine the scale of construction. When we look at obelisks in pictures, as seen in this picture from Tanis, Egypt, it's really hard to compare sizes. Here, we can see a small portion of a destroyed obelisk. Some of these obelisks are as tall as 126 feet and weigh upwards of 1,300 tons. They are built from a single block of granite. Similarly, there are remains of huge statues in Tanis that were 90 feet tall. If we look at Luxor, we find the best known examples of these giant precision statues. Named after Ramses II as he carved his name onto them, these identical statues weigh as much as 400 tons. There are even remnants of a cyanide statue at the Ramesseum that was 60 feet tall and weighed 1,000 tons. This is the weight of the stone of the pregnant lady in Baalbek, which was thought to be the heaviest stone ever carved by humans, until of course the locals dug right beside the stone in 2017 to reveal a 1,600-ton stone. It makes you wonder what else remains unexcavated due to the ignorance of archaeologists. Also, why would they use such impossibly large scales, and how were they able to move these stones if we can't do that easily even in our current technologically advanced society? Let's move to the next topic, mathematical design. When we examine these identical massive statues at Luxor, we can't help but notice the sophisticated crowns that sit on the top of these statues, which represent the Upper and Lower Egypt. Christopher Dunn showed in his Lost Technologies book how they are the result of extremely complex series of compound radial curves and spherical geometry that has been made into 3 dimensions. The consistency of the arcs and the shapes are perfect, and they are replicated exactly from one example to the next. Dunn studied this phenomena in great detail and had the following to say. The design and precise geometry that was crafted into Ramses' crown is a symbol of a society that was disciplined in precision engineering and craft. The pieces could not have been created without the aid of some kind of mechanical device that guided the tool along a prescribed contour. Neither was this mechanical device a simple machine. Figures 1.29 and 1.3 illustrate a path of the center point of an arc extrapolated from the geometry of the crown. If the designers were to convey to the engineers or craftsmen what they wanted, drawings similar to these figures may have been used. The design is one thing, but devising from the drawings a means of cutting the design into granite with the exactitude noted in the photographs and transmitted through the palms of my hands to my brain as I felt each surface is entirely another matter. Creating such an object today using modern computers, software, and computer numerical controlled machines, or CNCs, would present some significant challenges to be sure, but not as much head scratching would be involved today as there would have been 49 years ago when I first entered the manufacturing trade as a young apprentice. Applying the tools of 50 years ago to the Ramses challenge would severely tax craftsmen skilled in manufacturing and the tools and instruments necessary to ensure such precise geometry would not even be in a sculptor's toolbox. Radial cuts were consistently made into the granite, and the axes of these cuts were blended to form compound surfaces that curve in 3 dimensions, making up the precise features in the face. The same can be said about the extreme symmetry observed in these sculptures. This mathematical precision can't be underestimated and can only be achieved in precise manufacturing techniques. When we examine material hardness, we see examples of sculptures and artifacts found at the Cairo Museum that are made of various hard materials, from granite to diorite to schist, breccia, flint, conglomerate, quartz, basalt, and even obsidian. These are some of the hardest and most difficult materials to work with a Mohs scale of 5 to 7. There is one vase being shown that is made of corundum, which is a 9 on the Mohs scale, and yet they display the copper and bronze tools right underneath and claim that these can cut these absurdly hard materials. Let's examine the different age and style of construction. If we examine these 2 boxes situated outside the Cairo Museum, the one on the left is described as being older than the one on the right. But as you can see, the one on the left, both lid and the box, were made of one piece of very hard granitic stone, whereas the one on the right is quite cruder and is said to be made later. When we examine the Tiwanaku stones in Bolivia, we can see the different scales used in construction. The more weathered stones are much larger and appear to be from a different era of construction. The large andesite stones weigh upwards of 100 tons each and are 20 feet tall. The smaller stones were reconstructed in the 1960s by archaeologists who wanted to restore the shape of the wall. We can see similar differences in styles of construction in Peru. The distinct style of Incan stone construction is clearly visible in these pictures. All three styles are attributed to the Incans alone, despite these differences. We can also see this difference between old and new constructions in Baalbek, Lebanon. The Roman construction sits on trilithons that sit on a rectangular base. These stones each weigh upwards of 800 tons. As seen in the pictures, there is a lot of weathering to these ancient stones. Comparing the weathering on the larger stones from the smaller ones, we can easily see the different construction styles, also both attributed to the Romans, despite these obvious differences. Lastly, let's examine the anomalies of hieroglyphics. As we have seen in the previous video, ancient Egyptians had advanced techniques for polishing uneven surfaces. If we examine these boxes from the Cairo Museum, we notice some crude hieroglyphics relative to the granite surface. This becomes more evident the more polished the surface. If we look at the Serapeum, we can see the unpolished nature of the hieroglyphics clearly. If the builders were able to polish the surfaces with utmost detail, why did they not polish the writing itself? The simplest answer is because the writing most likely came later and was done by a civilization that lacked the same capabilities. As Yusuf Iwan says,
why we cannot accept it? Because of the perfection of machining. You cannot be the one who do this, the thing that would challenge the engineers today, and then you will be challenged just by adding the writings on. Especially that we have seen many good examples of dynastic Egyptians relief and deep relief and high relief superior writings, and we know the process of it and we know the tools. And in my opinion, as a stone carver and someone who's been studying this, I haven't seen really any writings in the hieroglyphics, even the best quality ones which I love so much, relief or high relief or deep relief, that reflects power tools. I have seen it in statues and in boxes and in slabs, but I haven't seen it yet in any writings. I know how it was done. It was done manually.
Look at this box for example. Although it's heavily weathered, you can still see the light that reflects from its surface. Yet despite being utterly covered with hieroglyphics, you can see the obvious hand tool nature of the work and how the writings were made by chipping away the top layer after the polishing of the stone. This is even more visible when the hieroglyphics are larger with plenty of space in between. If we think about the dynastic Egypt era, which lasted a few thousand years, it could be easily envisioned how they could have developed bronze and copper tools and advanced their hieroglyphics carving skills. This explains why Ramses II had his name on everything. Once he tagged it, it was his forever, and we still attribute endless statues and monuments to him till this day. So, Soul Seekers, what do you think? Do you think we have enough evidence to prove that ancient civilizations were more advanced than we think? You know, as always, I love reading your comments, so please make sure to leave them in the comment section below. If you haven't watched my first episode, please go back and watch it, as there are more proofs in it. As always, thank you so much for watching my channel and supporting me in spreading these videos around. I look forward to seeing you soon. See you next time. Stay psyched, stay cool, and don't stop questioning your reality. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and let's question reality together.